Hey there, fellow history enthusiasts, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we've got a mind-blowing revelation that's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient Egypt and its connection to biblical figures. We're diving deep into the annals of history, exploring the enigmatic stories of Joseph, Moses, and the intriguing world of an 18th dynasty pharaoh. Here we are going to find that these Bible figures are not mentioned by these names outside of the Bible. Not only that, they are actually someone of pharaonic lineage. So, buckle up because this is going to be one wild ride. Moses' greatness and Joseph's ascent to power. We begin our journey in the book of Genesis, where the story of Joseph unfolds. The Pharaoh appoints Joseph as the ruler of Egypt, second only to himself. It's a tale of immense power and authority. But wait, here's the twist. Despite these biblical accounts, there's no mention of Joseph in any Egyptian records under those names. Exodus chapter 11 verse 3 tells us that Moses was highly regarded in the land of Egypt, even in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants and the people. But there's no concrete Egyptian evidence to support the claims the two existed, at least by those names. What's really going on? Ramses II and the land of Goshen. Fast forward to the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II, and we discover something intriguing. According to his records, Semitic people lived in the land of Goshen, and they migrated from Canaan due to famine. But here's the catch. If we follow the standard Bible chronology, the Hebrews went to Egypt 3 centuries before Ramses II's time. It just doesn't add up. Jewish reckoning, a new perspective. So, what's the alternative? Enter the Jewish reckoning, a fresh perspective that challenges the standard chronology. According to this view, Joseph didn't arrive in Egypt in the 1720s BC, but rather in the early 15th century BC. There he was, chief minister to Thutmose IV, who ruled in 1413 to 1405 BC. Mind-boggling, right? Joseph as Yuya, a hidden identity. But here's where it gets really interesting. In Egypt, Joseph was not called Joseph, but he was known as Yuya. His story sheds light not only on the biblical Joseph, but also on Moses. Ahmed Osman, a historian and linguist, has explored these personalities in their Egyptian context, and the findings are groundbreaking. Royal intrigue. When Pharaoh Thutmose died, his son married his sibling, sister Sitamu, as was the pharaonic tradition, so that he could inherit the throne as Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Shortly afterwards, he also married Tai, daughter of the chief minister, Joseph Yuya. It was decreed, however, that no son born to Tai could inherit the throne. Because of the overall length of her father Joseph's governorship, there was a general fear that the Israelites were gaining too much power in Egypt. So when Tai became pregnant, the edict was given that her child should be killed at birth if a son. Tai's Jewish relatives lived at Goshen, and she herself owned a summer palace a little upstream at Zar, where she went to have her baby. She did indeed bear a son, but the royal midwives conspired with Tai to float the child downstream in a reed basket to the house of her father's half-brother Levi. The birth of Aminadab and Akhenaten. The boy Aminadab, born around 1394 BC, was duly educated in the eastern Delta country by the Egyptian priests of Ra. In his teenage years, he went to live at Thebes. By that time, his mother had acquired more influence than the senior queen, Sitamun, who had never borne a son and heir to the pharaoh, only a daughter who was called Nefertiti. In Thebes, Aminadab could not accept the Egyptian deities and their myriad idols, and so he introduced the notion of Aten, an omnipotent god who had no image. Aten was thus an equivalent of the Hebrew Adonai, a title borrowed from the Phoenician and meaning Lord, in line with Israelite teachings. At that time, Aminadab, Hebrew equivalent of Amenhotep, Amun is pleased, changed his name to Akhenaten, servant of Aten. Akhenaten's reign. Pharaoh Amenhotep then suffered a period of ill health. Because there was no direct male heir to the royal house, Akhenaten married his half-sister, typical of Egyptian royalty, Nefertiti, in order to rule as co-regent during this difficult time. When in due course Amenhotep III died, Akhenaten was able to succeed as pharaoh, officially called Amenhotep IV. Akhenaten and Nefertiti had 6 daughters and a son, Tutankhamun. Pharaoh Akhenaten closed all the temples of the Egyptian gods and built new temples to Aten. He also ran a household that was distinctly domestic, quite different from the kingly norm in ancient Egypt. The fall of Akhenaten, the rise of Moses. However, with all his reforms during his reign, they didn't sit well with everyone. The priests of Amun and Ra plotted against him. Threats of armed insurrection grew, demanding the return of traditional gods alongside Aten. In the end, Akhenaten was forced to abdicate in favor of his cousin Smenkhare, who was later succeeded by Tutankhaten, Akhenaten's son. Akhenaten, meanwhile, was banished from Egypt. He fled with some retainers to the remote safety of Sinai, taking with him his royal scepter topped with a brass serpent. To his supporters, he remained very much the rightful monarch, the heir to the throne from which he had been ousted, and he was still regarded by them as the Meses or Moses, heir born of, as in Tutmosis, born of Tilth, and Ramses, fashioned of Ra. And there you have it, folks, a riveting tale of biblical figures in ancient Egypt, a story that challenges the conventional chronology and reveals hidden identities. Joseph and Moses tied up into one historical figure, a heretic pharaoh of Egypt named Akhenaten. If you found this as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending history revelations. Until next time.